Okay.
You're welcome to stay on if you want, but we are not going to have the bond hearing for either Mr. O'Neill or Mr. Carlisle. You'll get notified by the district attorney's office when we reschedule it. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Right.
Same for you, Mr. Giles. You're welcome to stay on. Up to you. All right, Mr. Hill, you are once again unmuted. Appreciate your patience. We are going to turn now to your case. Ms. Rivers, good afternoon. You ready?
Yes, Judge, I'm ready. Good afternoon.
This is 22 SC 182098, State versus Kenneth Carl Hill. Mr. Hill is represented by Ms. Wood. Ms. Feely is the lead attorney on it. She's not available today, but her trial partner, courtroom partner, Ms. Wood, is here on her behalf. Ms. Feely filed a motion about a week ago. We're moving fast. And it was to reconsider bond. Ms. Feely pointed out that Mr. Hill has been in custody without bond on some pretty serious charges, but they're merely allegations at this time for almost half a year. And she thinks it's time for me to think. Well, now the number went up in her motion. It's either half a year or 3/4 of a year. Either way, it's a long time. And so it's time to think again about whether bond is appropriate for Mr. Hill. Mr. Hill, I will hear from Ms. Wood. Then I will hear from Ms. McCauley, the prosecutor who is handling the bond hearing. And I'll let you know, most likely, right now what I'm going to do. Ms. Wood, when you're ready.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Hill has been in Fulton County Jail since January 25th of this year, which is right at 170 days. He is in no bond status. We're asking the court to consider a reasonable bond in this case. He is 33 years old, Judge. He is single with one son, 11-year-old Noah. He's officially a resident of South Carolina. He tells me that his hometown is about 2 hours from here. He lives there with his mother, Tina, who, if he is granted a bond, she would be the primary person to bring him to and from court dates, Judge. He has lived at that particular address for the past 4 years. He has a 10th grade education. He was most recently employed as a cook at IHOP. According to the notes I have before me, he has no violent history or other history that's related to these type of charges. He reports he has no failure to appears. He's not on probation or parole. It looks like he was last heard before a court. I think it was this court on February the 15th, where bond was denied. The basis for Ms. Feely's filing of the motion for reconsideration was at the time of her filing, he was housed on 6 South. Our office is gravely concerned about what's going on at the jail currently with their conditions, Judge, particularly on 6 South. I'm sure the court is aware of the number of cases that are coming in at first appearance regularly, stemming from stabbings and other fights and different violent interactions that are happening at Rice Street, Judge. So that is the reason that she refiled. We are just asking the court to consider a reasonable bond in this case.
Thank you. Did Mr. Hill's job at IHOP was a job in South Carolina or down here?
I believe it's South Carolina. Is that correct, Mr. Hill?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I think I remember this case. It involves like the Greyhound bus station and 2 young ladies. And one of my areas of concern, and I'll hear from Ms. McCauley, but then I'll circle back to you, Ms. Wood, is what the heck was Mr. Hill doing allegedly down here in Atlanta? And then there were these young ladies on a bus, et cetera. And so the lack of connection to here that made me a little reluctant on the bond front. It sounds like there are maybe some sources of stability in South Carolina, which is an adjacent state, but it is not the state of Georgia. Ms. McCauley, what's the state's view? Well, one more question for Ms. Wood. Ms. Wood, are you able to tell from your review of the file, that is Ms. Feely's file, if there are any discovery issues or any reason why what we ought not to do is just make sure we get Mr. Hill into court pronto for his trial?
Judge, I did speak with Miss Feely yesterday, and from that conversation, it seems like she has most of her discovery. Of course, I don't want to say for certain that she has everything, but I am confident if there's any issues, we'll get with Miss McCauley.
Okay, or Mr. Shapiro. But importantly, Ms. Feely did not tell you, yeah, I don't have my client's statement, and the two young ladies went to the Center for Children's Wellness. I don't remember what it's called anymore. That one. They went there and they gave one of those forensic interviews. That's not what Ms. Feely told you.
Correct, Judge. She did not tell me she was missing anything.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Ms. McCauley.
Yes, Your Honor, the state is opposed to a bond at this point for this defendant. He does not meet the criteria under Ayala in order to be considered a viable candidate for bond. So just to summarize, the court is familiar with the facts of this case. The two young girls, they were 14 and 15, ran away from Forsyth and ended up at the Greyhound bus station in Atlanta, where they were denied the purchase of tickets based on how young they appeared to the teller. At which point they encountered the defendant, who then took them back to a car wash where he said he worked at, and provided them with alcohol and weed, and then proceeded to have sex with them. In the interim, since this case has been indicted, a CODIS hit did come back, matching the DNA in one of the juvenile victims' sexual assault kit to the defendant. There's a confirmation of a swab pending right now at the GBI. It does look like it's in process. So that is an outstanding matter of discovery for the court's information. But obviously that changes the stakes as it relates to Mr. Hill and the charges against him, and how soon he needs to be brought to trial. That's a pretty significant development in the state's opinion in the terms of this case. And does obviously go to this defendant's flight from the jurisdiction. As it relates to his criminal history, he is actually on probation out of South Carolina. There's a shoplifting case that he received 5 years and 18 months on probation for back in 2020. He also has two pending other cases. One is out of Pickens County, South Carolina, for a breach of the peace. I'm sorry, that's manufacture, possession of Scheduled 1 in the first degree, which apparently is a felony offense. It's also drugs and distribution, sell, manufacture, or possession with intent to distribute near a school. That's a pending case that he has. He also has a pending case from 2021 from Anderson County, South Carolina, for petty larceny. And just as I know Ms. Wood is standing in for Ms. Feely, and she may not be familiar, but this defendant also does have an arrest from 2015 for criminal sexual conduct in the second degree. I can't see the disposition on his GCIC, but obviously that is a concern of the state. Even if it was dismissed, it would be a concern of the state as to this defendant's likelihood to commit additional felonies pending trial and his risk to the community. Certainly the two open cases pose a risk to the community and also indicate that he is likely to not return to this court if he were to be released on a bond, because he hasn't bothered to return to those courts in South Carolina where he has those pending cases. So based on that, Your Honor, we would ask for a bond to remain in a no bond status.
Two questions. You said a CODIS hit, which to me usually says some other old case. Do you mean that there is yet another potential sexual assault, or CODIS was for you, there appears to be a DNA match between a swab taken from Mr. Hill and material gathered from one of the alleged victims in this case?
It's the latter, Your Honor. He did come back in the CODIS, which is Combined DNA Index System, as a convicted felon. He is a convicted felon out of South Carolina for 2017 shoplifting conviction.
Okay.
Felony shoplifting conviction, and that DNA was in the system and matched to our victims.
Okay. So there was DNA not necessarily swabbed in this case from Mr. Hill that was the supposed match.
Correct. The girls' DNA or sexual assault kits were analyzed by the GBI. Male DNA hit came back in one of them, and then it hit to the CODIS.
Okay, of all the DNA in the nationwide CODIS system, it came back to Mr. Hills.
Correct.
Got
And
it.
that pending confirmation swap, or that confirmation swap is pending.
Got it. Okay, that's helpful. Second question, you mentioned something to the effect that Mr. Hill didn't come back to court for his 2 open cases, drugs and larceny in South Carolina. Are you saying that because he's been stuck here, or there are failures to appear in the system?
I'm saying that because those cases are still open in South Carolina.
Okay.
I don't see any failure to appear as issued on his GCIC.
Okay.
I don't know if that translated from South Carolina.
Yep.
I'm gonna check right now, see if he's got a hold. He does not have a hold out of South Carolina, so it may just be non-extradition, but, I see that those cases are still open in those South Carolina dockets.
Okay. Do we have anyone from pretrial services on the call? Oh, okay. Ms. Wood, you and I both didn't know about, well, at least I didn't know about the CODIS development, not necessarily a favorable development for Mr. Hill, but our assessment right now is it a strong case or a weak case so much. That's just helpful to learn about. One of the things that has changed is maybe not something real favorable for Mr. Hill. Was there anything you wanted to add in connection with Ms. Feely's motion?
Judge, I don't believe so. I did not realize that he was on probation. So thank you, Ms. McCauley, for adding that so I can have it for my notes that I give back to Ms. Feely. I just think Mr. Hill understands, Judge, that this is a very serious case. And so we'll just ask the court to consider the reasonable bond, but he does understand the position.
Sure. Mr. Hill, I appreciate you listening in on all this, and I understand your predicament. I'm not going to change your bond status because 2 things. One, I'm looking at the scheduling order and we have your case moving along. Tomorrow is the deadline for Ms. Feely to file any motions. If she thinks there are substantive motions, like suppress your statement if you gave one, I'm not saying you did, things like that. There aren't any in the system. We've got a date to hear the motions coming up in just a couple of weeks, if any are filed. And then we've got you just a few weeks after that on a status conference, which is sort of a final plea date where I make sure everyone's got discovery. Is this case working out, or should we try it? We even have a trial date for you that's just a couple months down the road. I think that's where your case ought to go, and that's what I'm going to do. So I feel like the case is moving at a fairly healthy clip. I appreciate that each day it's your day in jail and not mine. So it may not seem like it's moving all that fast for you, but it is. The second thing I'll do is see if we can get you transferred to the Cobb County Jail, because there isn't much more that needs to happen with your case until it's time to get ready for trial. And so if the sheriff is willing to make that switch, that will get you off 6 South. But I can't guarantee that. I can just make the request. Sometimes it's honored, sometimes it's not. Ms. Wood, anything else on behalf of Mr. Hill?
Judge, I think he's wanting to speak to you. He did inform me when we did our breakout session that he's been awarded the status of honor inmate. So I think that's why he's in a different color jumpsuit. So I have a feeling he's about to tell you something related to that. Mr. Hill?
Okay. Sure. Mr. Hill, what did you want to share? You may not want to go to Cobb. You may just want to get off of 6 South.
Your Honor, I was just want to let you know that I'm in the honor door now on 6 North, and it's a lot better over here.
Oh, okay. So maybe leave you be. It's in a space. It's still jail, so it's not where anyone wants to be, but it is a step up from where you've been.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, also, I haven't even met with my attorney.
So you had a transition. Your attorney, Ms. Feely, is new to this courtroom. She is not new as an attorney. She is not new as a criminal defense attorney. She's been doing this for many years. But she recently transitioned into this courtroom. So she will come meet with you. She needs to do that so that you guys can connect and begin to figure out what the right way forward for you is. And I'm sure Ms. Wood will pass on my request to Ms. Feely that she come see you. Of course, you're not her only client. And so she's doing some triage. she was getting ready for a trial that actually we should be in the middle of right now, but she got the charges dismissed against her client. So she will be out to see you soon. I will not try to get you moved to Cobb because it sounds like you're in a better spot. But I will continue to move your case along at the healthy clip it's moving. Ms. McCauley, anything else in Mr. Hill's case?
Nothing from the state.
Thank you for parachuting in. Mr. Abate thanks you as well.
I think Mr.
All right.
Who represents the state on a case that was dismissed?
Cassie Hall. It was a Whitenauer matter, and Farouk. No, not the ag stocking. That one, they dodged a bullet because the defense attorney, despite me saying, "You really want this continuance?" He said, "Sure, we'll do a continuance." So that one survived. Farouk was a alleged ag sodomy. It was a commercial relationship that didn't end well, and I was told it was null prost.
I'm just curious.
Okay. No, it was a couple days before. It was a couple days before. All right, Mr. Hill, you are free to go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
It's like the secret amongst you guys when that stuff happens. You have to learn it from the judge. Okay. All right. Did we end up getting Mr. Carlisle in 6? Nope, he didn't come to one of the 6s. Lieutenant Dooley, are we gonna be able to get Mr. Carlisle in there?
I'll call sir to see what's going on the floors.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Because then you can get out of here, and then it's just Ms. Charles and Mr. Kimber and Ms. Rockwell. Well, we're hopefully we can just get Mr. Carlisle because that'll be like 2 seconds. But he's I think on 6 South. I've never heard of the honor dorm. I wonder if it has like locks that work. It's a new thing. Maybe we could tour that. I'm happy for Mr. Hill that he got in there. Hope he likes it there. Six North. Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor. I'm carrying my 97-page minute where I go, just continuing to read it, so I can think of every day.
Yeah, I unfortunately had to cite it in the last trial with Hilton. That stung.
So I think my opinion on, I won't say anything, but
Mr. Samuel and I have already been able to joke about it a little bit.
how long does it usually take for them to certify?
It takes a while to get the remitter. It takes a while. So there's no rush. Who is going to be managing that from your side? All right.
It'll be interesting to see if Mr. Roberts on the other side. He works with Mr. Secretary.
I know. I bet that was an interesting conversation too. All right, well, why don't we, is Miss Charles out there? Let's bring her in. Let's just get started with Mr. Kimber. There's been a lot of sitting around with his calendar. Once we see Mr. Carlisle in 6 North, we may pause the plea colloquy just to let him know what's going on. That way Ms. Wood can go, Mr. Abate can go. That's okay. We were doing other stuff, but we're waiting on one inmate, so I just soon get started with Mr. Kimber.
That's the issue right now. Stronghold is raising, flagging some things that but we're trying to work for, so that's, I think, not going to come up here, and he's talking to her right now.
Okay.
So we'll see
if we can go forward or not.
Go forward or not, because so there's no what she's raising. It's something that we don't think is an issue, but we want to work through it to make sure that it's to the.
Okay. Mr. Nunez is en route.
But I have to.
Right. I saw Ms. Teal. Okay. Well, we're in luck. Mr. Carlisle has just walked in, so that will buy everyone 2 more minutes. Let me get you there, and Ms. Wood, I'll add to the spotlight. All right. We don't need to take this down, Ms. Rivers. Mr. Carlisle, can you hear me?
Yes,
Good afternoon. I'm Judge McBurney. You may remember me. We met before.
yes.
Great. So we were going to today talk about a motion that your lawyer, Ms. Feely, who's not on this call, her colleague, her trial partner is on. She's on the screen right next to you, Ms. Wood. But Ms. Feely filed a motion to reconsider bond in your case. And we were going to work through that today because Mr. O'Neill and his lawyer had done the same thing. And so the defense attorney said, hey, let's get both the guys in here in this case. It turns out that Mr. O'Neill's lawyer may have a conflict such that he cannot represent Mr. O'Neill because he represented someone who was shot in the case in which you're charged, shot but survived. And you can't represent people on both sides. So his lawyer, Mr. O'Neill's lawyer, is going to need to talk with that individual as well as Mr. O'Neill to see if he can stay on the case. He may have to come off. He may stay on. If he stays on, then soon we'll get you back either virtual like this or in court. And either Ms. Feely, your lawyer, or her partner, Ms. Wood, will argue that motion for bond. But I don't want to do them separate. I want to do them together. And we need to sort out Mr. O'Neill's representation before we can do that. Okay?
Okay.
I just want to let you know what was going on, why we pulled you in here. We may pull you into a booth like this in a few weeks, or we may bring you on over to court if we're going to go forward with the bond hearing. Okay?
Okay.
Any questions?
No.
Ms. Wood, anything you want to add?
No, well, briefly, Judge, Mr. Carlisle, are you in the process of hiring a private attorney, or are you just going to stick with our office?
I'm gonna stick with your office.
Okay, Judge, it was brought to my attention yesterday, there might be change of representation, but we will continue to prepare as if he's ours.
Sure. And Mr. Carlisle, the public defender's office will work very hard on your behalf up until the last moment someone says, no, I've been hired. If you know you're going to do that, the courteous thing to do, and I'm not saying you are going to do that, but if you are, let the public defender's office know, because then they can stop working on your case, focus on other clients, and they'll, of course, hand their file over to whoever you hire. But it sounds like you are going to stick with Ms. Feely and Ms. Wood. They'll continue working hard on your case, and we'll go from there, okay?
Yes, because when Ms. Patel she had gave us a number to call for another attorney. We had talked to him, but he had wanted too much.
Okay. Well, Ms. Patel has rolled off your case. She's not with the public defender anymore. Ms. Feely replaced her, and then Ms. Wood is her partner in this courtroom. So Ms. Feely will come see you soon, and when we sort out Mr. O'Neill's lawyer situation, we'll get you guys both back in here to talk about bond, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Judge, may I be excused?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.
If not, excuse me.
You may enjoy the opinion. All right. all that we have left. So Mr. Carlisle, you're free to leave the booth. All that we have left is Mr. Kimber's please. And Mr. Nunez's second half of his plea. Mr. Kimber, your lawyer and the prosecutors are arguing about something. So you know why we're here. Ms. Rockwell has some concern on your behalf that she is exploring with Ms. Charles's supervisor, okay?
Hi, Judge. And that's correct. I'm here. I'm listening to y'all, but I've got Brad on the, we got Brad looking at it. Thank you, Judge.
And you can have a few more minutes and then we're gonna either go forward or not. Lieutenant Dooley, we are done with Rice Street. We've got Mr. Kimber up at Cobb and our other defendant is walking in, hopefully soon.
Okay, but because Cobb is basically our inmate, I have to stay on until you're done with him.
I'm just letting you know, I know you do, but I'm just letting you know that we won't be using any more of the Fulton booths.
Okay, you can close them.
I will.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye. So Malkin and Rockwell are talking. I just wanted, that's what's happening? You said that they are talking?
It's okay.
Okay. And Ms. Teal, you have any update as to Mr. Nunez's whereabouts? You think he's in Georgia?
He should be walking in any moment. I just got word that he parked.
Excellent.
We have to smoke them all.
Yeah, is Mr. Nunez here?
He just got.
Great. Is Ms. Charles here?
She's just got.
Okay. You guys can come on up to defense table.
You want me to come in there with you?
Sorry about that. I muted everything for a moment. Ms. Rivers, are you
Yes,
ready, other than this weird feedback we're getting?
yes, I'm ready.
Okay. Ms. Charles, is any of that yours?
You're muted, but your computer on.
Are we better? Much better. Okay.
I'm sorry. Earlier, I think Tim was on this, and it was Gio. I think he was.
He may be one. There's now someone on who's just one. I don't know who that is, but one is welcome to join us if we identify who that is. All right, we're going to get started. And when I see Gio, we can work through Gio. I do need to know, though, there's someone on the Zoom session who is listed just as number one. And I'm going to put you in the waiting room unless you can let me know who you are.
It's Gio.
Oh, it is Gio. So Gio is one. Excellent, Gio. You stay there. I'm going to mute you again. And then if it becomes appropriate for you to share a victim impact statement, I'll ask you to unmute. Okay.
All right.
Thanks. Now we know who one is. All right, Ms. Rivers, we're going to get on the record in Mr. Nunez's case. This is, let me get it off the trial calendar here. 21 SC 179352. Mr. Nunez took care of part of his plea. I accepted his guilty plea to certain counts of the indictment. I think it was every count except for count 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's right. The state has dismissed count 7. The state has recommended, at least as of last week or earlier this week, I guess, the recommendation was 25 to serve 8 with a balance on probation, with the conditions of no contact with the victim or victims, or with the co-defendant who has already entered a guilty plea. The state provided the factual basis. I accepted it. I found that Mr. Nunez's plea was knowing and voluntary, but we stopped because we needed to work through sentencing, and Mr. Nunez was appearing remotely, but in Georgia. Ms. Teal was appearing remotely, but even further away. We now have in court Ms. Charles, Mr. Nunez, and Ms. Teal. Everyone is here in court, and it is time to talk about sentencing in Mr. Nunez's case. I'll start with Ms. Charles. If there's anything you want to add beyond your recommendation, if it's the time for a victim impact statement, well, now would be the time. If either Gio, but we'll want his full name, wants to share something, or if you'll be sharing something on his behalf, anything you want to share as to why you think the 25 to serve 8 balance probated is a reasonable sentence in a case that, based on the state's rendition of the facts, involved not only a firearm, but the discharge of a firearm. Fortunately, no one was injured. The BMW was injured, but that's a property crime for which this defendant was not charged.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. And I do have a small presentation I'd like to share with the court, but before I do that.
Judge, excuse me, Ms. Charles, please take the microphone on.
Okay, her microphone is now on.
Yes, Your Honor, I do have a very short presentation I would like to share with the court. However, before I do so, I would like for Your Honor to hear from Mr. Giovanni Vargas, who is the victim in the indictment. In his own words, I said he was free to tell you in his own words exactly how this has impacted him and how it's made him feel since then.
Sure. Mr. Vargas, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Great. If you would spell your name and then share with me, please, anything you want to share about this situation, the impact it's had on you, and what you think a fair and reasonable outcome would be.
So you want me to spell out my name?
That's what I want you to start with.
Geovani, and then last name Bargas.
All right, Mr. Vargas, how old are you?
15.
All right. So tell me what you think about how to happen in this case or the effect it's had on you, either or both.
I mean, it had me a little, I guess, what's the word? On edge for a while, I guess. You could say that. And right now I've been better.
So my recollection is that there were actually two of you, you and maybe a friend, were sitting in the back of that car that people hung out in when this happened. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Were you injured at all?
No, sir.
You had a cell phone taken?
Yes, sir.
Anything else?
Oh, and a bag.
A bag, like a bag of food or a backpack that had stuff in it?
A Versace bag with an iPhone charger.
Ooh, a nice bag. Did you get your bag, your charger, or your phone back?
Nah.
They're gone.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, Mr. Vargas, I appreciate you being here virtually and sharing that with me. Anything else you want me to know?
No, not really.
Okay. Well, thank you, sir. You're welcome to go back on mute. All right, Ms. Charles, what else?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm about to go to share my screen. Although we have given Your Honor a flavor of the facts, we'd like to sort of show Your Honor as well how this case unfolded, just very briefly.
Okay.
And just to sort of corroborate our narration previously.
All right.
And Your Honor, as you're aware, this case began on April 2nd, was reported on April 2nd. However, it occurred on April 1st. This is a very short, sort of a 2-minute call, and then we'll sort of go through it just very briefly.
So this would be Mr. Vargas calling 911.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
911, what is the address of the emergency?
843B.
Sorry?
843B Partridge Lane.
Okay. Just repeat that to make sure I have it right.
Yeah.
Repeat it for me to make sure I have it right.
843B Partridge Lane.
And you're saying apartment B as in boy?
Yeah.
Okay, and what's the phone number you're calling me from?
Six, 7, 8.
Mm-hmm.
754.
Uh-huh.
39. 98.
Okay, I see that on my screen. And what's your name?
Graciela Quintana.
And tell me exactly what happened.
I got my phone robbed at gunpoint.
You what?
I got my phone robbed at gunpoint.
You got your phone robbed at gunpoint, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And just make sure that I have it right. You said that the address is 843 apartment B as in boy?
Yeah.
Okay. Bear with me for one moment, okay?
Okay.
Okay, how many minutes ago did this happen?
This is like 2 to 3 hours ago. I was trying to go look for it, but I couldn't find it.
Okay, and is the suspect in the area?
Not here. Probably in some other place.
Okay, and are you at the 843 location now?
Yes. Okay. Does anyone need medical attention?
No.
Okay. All right, do not disturb anything at the scene. I'm gonna have an officer dispatched as soon as possible. Call us back if anything changes or if you have any further information, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Of course, bye-bye.
And so Your Honor, officers were dispatched to the scene, and once they canvassed the scene and cataloged everything they recovered, you will see on item number 8 on the crime scene investigative report that at the scene, a federal .40 Smith & Wesson cartridge was discovered in the driver's seat of the BMW that Giovanni Vargas and Jonathan Perez had been sitting in. Officers later obtained a search warrant to the address where Mr. Nunez and the co-defendant Vanessa Lira had been identified as living. The search warrant was executed, and from the guest bedroom, investigators recovered item 9, a pair of black pants and a dark sweaty hoodie, a Smith & Wesson .40 handgun, a pistol holster, a Smith & Wesson handgun box containing 1 box of federal .40 Smith & Wesson ammunitions. Also on the person of Jonathan Nunez at the scene was recovered item number 16, 1 .40 Smith & Wesson cartridge. I want to share with you this is the BMW as it looked on the day. This is the ammunition .40 recovered from the driver's side of that BMW where the 2 boys had been sitting. And here we see officers showing the trajectory of the bullet going down the middle with Jonathan Perez, who had been sat behind the driver's side, and Giovanni Vargas, who had been sat behind the passenger side, both in the back seat. And that the shot went down between the 2 of them, not hitting them, but of course terrifying them. At the home of where Mr. Nunez and Ms. Lira lived at the time, this closet was searched, and underneath a pile of clothes was found the Smith & Wesson handgun along with the magazines. And this is just sort of corroboration of the serial number. That's a handgun that matched the ammunition found at the scene. And so, Your Honor, although it, some people may say, oh, what was taken was an iPhone and a backpack, it was something more taken from Giovanni Vargas and Jonathan Perez that day. They were 14 at the time. Jonathan Perez had been celebrating his birthday. They simply wanted to get some edibles, have a good time, eat some tacos, and have a celebration. They did not want a handgun to be pointed at them, far less to be fired at them, terrorizing them, taking away a bit of their innocence. Because there's that part, while Giovanni may, they say, yes, later on we've moved on, we've gotten our lives back. You're never going to forget a handgun being pointed at you at the age of 14. And as a mother of a son who's younger than Giovanni, in my position, I would want a whole lot more punishment for Mr. Nunez. However, as a jurist, I understand that Mr. Nunez is taking accountability. And so we have to sort of temper justice with mercy. And so our plea recommendation is a reflection of that temperance of justice with mercy. And the fact that he's taking accountability. So had this case come to trial, Mr. Nunez will be facing a whole lot more time. And I believe as the evidence shows that we will be able to prove this case well beyond a reasonable doubt. And so we ask that you consider and accept the state's recommendation as recommended. Thank you.
And you're very welcome. Thank you for that. That was very thorough. I don't typically get to learn quite so much about the case before I am asked to sentence. You are invoking 1710 6.1 E?
Yes. Sir.
Okay. 10 6.1 E. That would allow me, should I choose to go below the 10-year floor for counts 1 and 2.
Yes, Your Honor.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for that. Ms. Tucson, do you have any, I think I asked you this before because it's on my notes here, but I just want to double check since we're on the record again. Any adult criminal history in Georgia for Mr. Nunez?
No, Judge, no probation for him, no prior record.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Teal.
Judge, Mr. Nunez has a statement he'd like to read to the court.
Okay, so we'll start with that. Mr. Nunez, tell me what you want to tell me about you and your situation.
Quick question, can I pull down my face mask?
You sure can. While you're reading, it'll be real helpful for Ms. Rivers, who is taking this down remotely, to be able to hear you.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Let me tell you about two people. Person A lives in a good community where there's so many people to look up to. Good example, quote, quote, role models as his future's set for him by his guidance and good supportive team.
Mr. Nunez, I'm going to ask you to slow down a little bit. I know you may be nervous because this is a stressful time, but Ms. Rivers, what you're saying is real important. And I'm hearing it, but I want to make sure Ms. Rivers can take it down as well. So
do you want me to restart?
I don't need you to restart. I just need you to
slow down,
put the brakes on. Yeah.
Person B lives in an area where many people would claim the quote, quote, ghetto, where being hustlers and gang members is considered normal. Crime is the only way to survive. Now close your eyes and picture each one of these kids and tell me what you see. Be honest. No one's going to judge you. So am I a person or person A or person B? Am I a person with a bright future or a menace to society? For most of my life, I've been caught between for who I am and who I perceive and how I perceived. In between categories and definition, I don't fit in. I used to think that was a curse, but now I'm slowly starting to see maybe it's a blessing. When you don't fit in society, you're forced to see the world from many different angles and points of view. You gain knowledge and life lessons from different people and places, and those lessons, better or worse, have shaped me for who I am. Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Jonathan Nunez, where I always make sure to never break the law, as my record shows, where I take writing as my passion, where my gifts has got me so many good places. As I stand right in front of you, Your Honor, I want you to be able to see that I'm not a menace I am not the menace they're trying to paint the picture of. I wake up every day asking what I could have done so different, what I could have done to help people and get out of the ways and mistakes I made. At the age of 13, I lost my best friend to gun violence. He was more than a best friend, but a brother, my guidance. Feeling guilty of his death every day, knowing that the lifestyle of a gang member is death or being behind a cell every day for life. You may ask, who is this person? I am a person with dreams and goals, and to be an impact of my people. I don't want to fall into the odds and statistics out of my area. I want to show with my actions there's another way. I need a second chance to be a leader, a role model, most importantly, example of a person who made it out of a bad area without being another statistic of the world. Your Honor, we are all humans. We might look different and be different colors, but we all bleed the same and make so many mistakes. As I'm writing this letter to you, Your Honor, I let my heart guide, my hand and my emotion bleed onto this paper, feeling remorse, shameful, hurtful, and wrong for my actions that I've done. My goal in life is to become a youth speaker for the endangered youth. I don't want to make no more moms worry or be scared of their children's choices of life or life at all. I want everyone to be able to know my life story fully. Where one of my best friends died from overdose because one of my other best friends died from overdose because one of his older brothers taking his life away. One of my guidance I had in my life was taken away from me, really stripped away out of nowhere. Your Honor, I want you to look at me dead in the center of my heart, with all my emotions, and see the guilt I feel because I am human, that have emotions and regret, not just a menace that doesn't feel anything about their actions, but that's not a person I am or ever will be. Being a middle brother, I got the chance to be an older brother and a younger brother. My older brother wasn't able to be my guidance because he wasn't there as much as a brother at all. Where I can't blame no one for my mistake that I did. The only I can say is that guidance would have changed my life fully. There are many kids and adults as me with no one to look up to or be able to show them another path. But I want to be able to be a second chance to change many people's lives, and most importantly, the youth, because they are the future of our lives. I will show with my power and my actions that I will change my whole life around. My peers around me and my area. One person who stands out to me that made me see a whole new perspective perspective of life is named Kelly Cordero. She is the best thing I really had, my lucky star that I ever wished for. Where she never judged me by my looks, my background, or look, but for me, where she taught me to feel guilt and emotions to be a better person. That's when I saw that I wanted to be just like her and my inspiration, not just a menace of a statistic of a bad area I come from. Your Honor, I feel guilt and remorse towards my action where I want to go back in time and give myself a good long talk to myself about life. I will always will and never put myself first and make sure the people I love above me. Your Honor, I want to be able to give a second chance to be back into society where I can use my flaws and my errors that I made, bringing many different types of people from different worlds and social groups together and make a change into their life like how I wanted someone to be there for me. Show everyone with my actions because actions speak louder than words. I'm not a menace, but a person who made a mistake in their youth life that feels regret towards everyone that is impacted by me, and most importantly, remorse towards everyone a part of it. I want to thank my family for opening my eyes to giving me a new vision of my life. My attorney for making everyone know that I'm not just a menace of a bad area that everyone tries to paint over, but a human who bleeds just like everyone else. And most importantly, a person who makes mistakes like everyone else. And it's Kelly Cordero, the love of my life, who shaped me to the person I am now, for me to feel remorse and emotions towards my actions instead of being a follower of a being so claim a bad person, but to be an impact to people. My inspiration really credited to her. Jonathan Nunez, who's ready to show his action for a second chance. Sincerely, Jonathan Nunez, heart, mind, and emotions.
Thank you, sir. That was a lot of writing. When did you do that?
One thing about me is I can when I'm set for a goal, I can just write. So I really just did this in the span of 2 days, instantly, because my writing has got me a scholarship to Alabama State.
To what?
Alabama State. That's why.
Okay. Well, good for you. And Kelly Cordero, that'd be your girlfriend. How would you describe her position in your life?
Well, so before her, I was seeing myself as a statistic, I just fell back into the same category, how everyone else is. I'm just a bad person coming from a bad area. I'm gonna just be ending up with the same tradition. But she showed me another way where I can just show different instead of just focusing on just the small things, focus on the big things. You don't gotta make your options small, reach for the stars. And that's when I realized this is possible. And then I told her about my case, and then she made me feel what was worth it? Was it really worth everything that you risked for? Was it worth anything? And I'm no. And then she started making me feel regret because I'm if I was in that situation, I would not know how to describe it.
So you met her after this case happened?
In between 2021 and September, yeah.
Okay. All right. And is she someone you still keep in touch with?
Very.
Good. All right. Well, I appreciate you sharing that, Mr. Nunez. Ms. Teal, what is your recommendation as to what ought to happen with Mr. Nunez?
Judge, we're asking for no more than 7 years. You've heard that Mr. Nunez is extremely remorseful for his actions. He's a bright young man with a scholarship to Alabama State University and a clean record. If this had gone to trial, you would have heard testimony that the gun discharging was an accident. Even looking at the photograph and the trajectory of the bullet, you can see that it's very low down on the seat. It was an accident. It wasn't a point and shoot robbery. It was a complete accident and surprised Mr. Nunez every much as it, I'm sure, surprised the victims. I also have a letter here from Mr. Nunez's employer that I'd like to make part of the record.
Where did you work, Mr. Nunez?
After my incarceration or recently?
Well,
Cava Digital Kitchen is a place where, so we sell Mediterranean food, but we're it's a different process. So we're the only store in Cava district that we're all digital. And then I usually specialize in grill and catering director.
Okay.
Yeah.
You may. Thank you. All right, that's a helpful letter. Thank you. Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Nunez, you can take a seat. I very much appreciate hearing from Mr. Vargas, and also from you, Mr. Nunez. Your letter was clearly from the heart and sincere. I don't view you as a menace. I view you as a young man who has made a series of dangerous and unwise choices. Whether you think that's because you're person B rather than person A, because you've had a different background than person A, that may help explain a little bit how you ended up where you ended up with a loaded gun pointed at two young men demanding their property. It just doesn't justify it. It doesn't make it easier for Mr. Vargas or the other gentleman. Maybe it was an accidental discharge. That wouldn't have been much of a mitigating circumstance if that bullet had gone into, what was the other gentleman's name?
Perez.
Perez was sitting closer, it looks like, to where the bullet went in. If it had gone into his liver and killed him, Ms. Teal could have argued to the jury, well, he didn't mean to pull the trigger, but they didn't point the gun at themselves. They didn't have a bullet in the chamber. They didn't have their finger on the trigger. And ultimately, the jury would be working through that. So this is serious. It could have been so much more serious if that bullet had struck Mr. Perez or Mr. Vargas. So I wasn't there. I don't know how accidental it was or not. What was not accidental was you deciding this was a good thing to do, following through with it, having that loaded gun, pointing it at the young men, taking their stuff. That is an odd leap for someone with no criminal history to end up like that. I hope that you have already started the process, and it sounds like you have based on what you wrote and this recommendation or letter from an employer to chart a different course, because what went down in April is the kind of thing that leads someone dead in the end. You pull a gun out and you're sort of goofing around, they pull guns out. I don't mean to suggest in any way Mr. Vargas had a gun, he didn't, but this is Georgia we live in, and you pull a gun out, the next thing you know, 6 other people have pulled guns out and they're shooting you. And your effort to get a phone or whatever you thought you'd get from these young guys results in you being paraplegic or something like that. There's not a good, safe, happy outcome from what you did. And there are real serious consequences. But it's clear you recognize that. Ms. Teal didn't say, oh, second chance, probation, anything like that. The two sides are remarkably close. I'm not quite sure why the gap wasn't bridged, but it doesn't need to be. It's not real hard to navigate these two options. Mr. Nunez, I will, because the state has given me that opportunity, invoke the provisions of 1710 6.1E, which lets me go below the 10 years. And I am going to sentence you on counts 1 and 2 to a period of 7 years to serve. Your sentence on, I need to look at the indictment because I bet there's some merger here. I think count 3 merges into count 1, and count 4 merges into count 2. Your sentence as to count 5 is 1 year to serve. It will run consecutive to count 1. Your sentence as to count 6 is 5 years. It has to be consecutive to the highest count, which would be count 5. And count 7 has been dismissed. Count 8 will be 12 months to serve concurrent with count 1. So it's a total sentence of 13 years to serve 8, with that balance of 5 years on probation. The first 7 years are non-parolable. The 8th year is parolable. It will be a special condition of your probation that you have no contact with Mr. Vargas, that's Giovanni Vargas, that you have no contact with Jonathan Perez, that's the other victim. And finally, no contact with Vanessa Lira, Lira, your co-defendant with whom you were living, I think, with her family at the time all this went down. You'll get credit for any time you have been in. I don't know how long you were in before you bonded out, whether it was a day or a month or a year. However long it is, you'll get credit for all of that against the 8 years. And you will be eligible for parole after the completion of the 7 years for counts 1 and 2. That doesn't mean you'll get paroled, but at least you'll be considered for it for that last year of your sentence. Ms. Charles, you had also, nope, that's Mr. Kimber. You didn't have any other recommended conditions of probation. Anything you want to add?
As far as, I think you mentioned something about school, just maybe, make sure that he pursues education at the end. Recommend that, but nothing else.
How far, Mr. Nunez, did you go? Have you finished high school? I know you got the scholarship or the opportunity to go to Alabama State. Do you already have a diploma or a GED?
Due to my incarceration, I was not being able to finish my senior year, the second semester.
Okay, so I'm going to make it a special condition of your probation that you get your GED. If you move on to higher education, that's great. You seem to have the desire to do that. Clearly, you were accepted. You've got the capability to do it. And you can get your GED while you're in custody. That's fine. But if you haven't, when you get out, you'll need to get your GED during that period of probation. Ms. Teal, anything else on behalf of Mr. Nunez?
No, you are.
All right, Mr. Nunez, hope these things work out in a way that you are envisioning them. I know this chapter isn't going to be as good, but you definitely have a second chance. When you get out, you're still a young man. You're in your 20s and you have decades ahead of you. You'll decide when you're out if it's the direction that you think you ought to go and want to go, and that maybe Ms. Cordero thinks you should go, or if you revert to what was going on in your life when you pulled the gun on these two young men. I hope it's path A and not path B. You're going to go with Deputy Gordon, okay? Thank you.
No, you can take it.
All right, Ms. Rockwell, are we able to go forward with Mr. Kimber, or where are we?
I need to talk to him for 2 seconds because I did get the final offer, the blah, 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 for our global. Otherwise, we'll just get sentenced on.
The first two?
Right.
Right. I mean, the others he hasn't pled to yet. So today we've got two options: sentence on the two to which he pled, the 19 SCs that were on the trial calendar, or we add to it the pleas to the 22 SCs. 100% your call, along with Mr. Kimber. Let me move you to a breakout room. I'll move Mr. Kimber to that breakout room as well. You all can talk, and when you're ready, come on back.
Thank you so much, Judge.
All right.
Thank you for getting it all done.
Okay. Well, we'll see what happens.
Hey, Mr. Kimber, can you
You're
hear
not
me?
in there. Not in there yet. Don't.
Oh, okay, okay.
I gotta create another room because I don't know how to do it otherwise. So we will move Rockwell and Sheriff into that room. All right. Mr. Kimber's in. You're both in there. Have your conversation. Are we close? What's the situation? Don't mute your microphone because you forget to unmute it.
You get the update. What update is the last thing?
Oh, the update.
Let's see. Where we are, Ms. Rockwell?
So Ms. Charles is working to resolve all 4 cases. I think Ms. Rockwell may not have been retained on one of them. And so she's wanting to work through that and, not.
Those kind of numbers.
Yes.
Okay.
Multiple numbers are in the works. And so I think the PD might have represented Mr. Kimber for a while. She doesn't want to step on somebody's toes and do something without full knowledge and awareness of what's going on. So
Okay.
So,
Well, we will get closure on at least the 19 SCs today.
yeah. Yeah. Your Honor, it looks like Ms. Charles has everything under control, so.
You're vacating. Well, it's timely because I'm closing the rooms. It's 3:00. We're either dealing with, you are not in a private room anymore, so don't talk privately. You're out of time. It's 3:00. I need to know what we're doing with Mr. Kimber. This has been on since 1:00 today, and I got a couple other things on my calendar that I need to turn to. So are we wrapping up sentencing on positions 1 and 2, or are we taking pleas on 3 and 4 and then globally sentencing all 4?
I'm gonna let him, where are you, Mr. Kimber? I can't see him anymore. Let me see.
Here, I can make him big so that everyone sees everyone. He's right there, and I'll add you because we need to be able to see everyone. There's Mr. Kimber. There's Ms. Rockwell. We've got Ms. Charles in the courtroom, and I'm fine either way. We're going to do sentencing on the 2 pleas I took for the 2019 cases. This is the selling the drugs at the Valero station on Fulton Industrial, a couple months apart. Then we've got these 2 newer cases that the state has accused because Mr. Kimber agreed you don't need to send it to a grand jury. You can accuse it. So which way are we going? Just sentencing, or are we going to take 2 more pleas and sentence all 4?
Mr. Kimber?
Oh, we're going with the 2 from 2 years ago.
Okay.
Not 2019.
Got it. Let's do that. So Mr.
Okay, let me just ask him. And you don't want to take the plea on the other 2 right now? I mean, do you want to take the plea on the gun case right now, Mr. Kimber?
Yeah, I do. I take the gun plea.
Okay.
So we could wrap that one up, but we'll leave the trafficking one alone.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fair enough. Ms. Charles, is that in your playbook to take the plea on the case ending in 005? And then we would do sentencing on the 219 SCs and the 22 SC 183005. You're in a position to offer a recommendation for those 3 cases. And make sure your microphone is on.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Then why don't we do that? You are welcome to stay there as long as you get close to the microphone. Let's get on the record. Ms. Rivers, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Great. So we are here with Carlos Kimber. He is on the screen appearing from the Cobb County Jail. His lawyer, Ms. Rockwell, is appearing from a real fancy 2-level legal library. Ms. Charles is here in court with me. Mr. Kimber, I need to get 2 waivers on the record from you. One, you're waiving your right to be here in courtroom 8D. You are agreeing that it's okay to appear remotely from the Cobb County Jail. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And the second waiver is that Ms. Rockwell is not by your side. She is in wherever she is, not in the Cobb County Jail. If you need to speak with her privately, we can drop you right back into one of those breakout rooms. But you are waiving your right to have your lawyer beside you while we take your plea in the 1 case and sentence you in the 3 cases. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Great. Well, you know the routine. In just a moment, Ms. Charles is going to put you under oath. We'll take the plea in the case ending in 005, also known as the gun case. Once I've accepted your plea, assuming I do, then I'll hear from Ms. Charles about sentencing on all 3 cases. I'll hear from Ms. Rockwell, sentencing on all 3 cases, and then I'll see if there's anything you want to add. And we will leave the trafficking case alone. That is nothing we're going to deal with today. You agree?
Yes, sir.
All right, Ms. Charles, when you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Kimber, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give in the matter currently before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Please state your true, correct, and legal name.
Carlos Kimber.
Are you at this time taking or under the influence of any alcohol, drugs, or medicine?
No, ma'am.
How old are you and how far have you gone in school?
35, and I graduated the 12th.
And do you understand that you're being charged with the following offenses in accusation 22 SC 183005? Count 1, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, and count 2, possession of and use of drug-related objects.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you have the right to plead either guilty or not guilty to these charges? And if you plead not guilty or remain silent, you may receive a jury trial.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Kimber, have you gone over all of your rights with your attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you had enough time to speak with your attorney about all of the facts and circumstances known to you regarding the charges in this accusation, including any potential defenses?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you need more time to discuss the case with your attorney?
No, ma'am.
Are you satisfied with her services?
Yes, ma'am.
Counsel, do you waive formal reading of the indictment?
So waived.
Do you waive any and all defects in the indictment?
So waived for purposes of the plea.
Mr. Kimber, were you arrested on these charges?
Yes, ma'am.
The state is unaware of any outstanding warrants related to these charges. Do you or your attorney know of any outstanding warrants that are related to these charges?
No, ma'am.
And has your attorney advised you of the minimum and maximum sentence for each charge that you are pleading to today?
Yes, ma'am.
In count 1, minimum 5 years, maximum 10 years because of the subsequent conviction. And count 2, misdemeanor possession, 12 months. Do you understand, Mr. Kimber,
Yes, ma'am.
that, hold on a second, that if your guilty plea is a blind plea or a so-called non-negotiated plea, that means myself and Ms. Rockwell have not agreed on a sentence, that I will recommend a sentence to the court. And in this case, we will recommend that Your Honor sentence you to 5 years to serve on counts 1 and 12 months to serve to run concurrent with count 1.
Before you go any further, I follow that as a recommendation in the case ending in 005, the plea we're taking right now, effectively a 5 years to serve sentence.
Yes, Your Honor.
You had, when we were last together, I think it was Friday, said that you would be recommending for the 219 SC cases, 15 to serve 4, balance probated. This 5 years would be concurrent with the 15 to serve 4?
Yes, Your Honor. So
Okay.
they both will run concurrent to that 15. So the global for those 3, excluding the trafficking, will be 15 serve 4, balance and probation.
Well, but wouldn't it be a 15 to serve 5?
5 because of the
This
count
case.
1. Yes, Your Honor. 15 serve
Understood.
5.
Okay.
You're right.
I follow that. Thank you. Back to you.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Kimber, do you understand the court can impose any sentence authorized by law, including a higher sentence than that recommended by the state, up to the maximum on each charge?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that if you enter a non-negotiated plea, you do not have the right to withdraw your plea once sentence has been announced?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that this is a guilty plea which is permanently recorded on your criminal history?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that this plea may be used to enhance sentencing on other convictions in this jurisdiction, as well as in other jurisdictions, including federal courts?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that if you're placed on probation of any kind, you cannot violate any criminal laws of any governmental unit or any special conditions of probation without being subject to revocation for the balance of the sentence?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you're not allowed to possess or use a firearm while on probation?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you a US citizen?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand then that there may be other adverse or unfavorable consequences as a result of this guilty plea conviction, just as there would be from a conviction following a trial?
Yes, ma'am.
For example, your guilty plea may affect the right to vote, the right to public office, the right to serve on a jury, the right to obtain a passport, the right to receive, possess, or transport a firearm, or the ability to obtain employment.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty to a felony, if you use, receive, possess, or transfer a firearm, or use a firearm in any crime, you will be guilty of a felony which carries a sentence of 1 to 15 years in prison?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you waive any and all defenses, including any mental health defenses, by entering a plea of guilty?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you are giving up the following rights: the right to a trial by jury, the right to remain silent and not incriminate yourself, the right to confront witnesses against you, the right to the assistance of counsel hired by you, the right to the presumption of innocence, the right to testify on your own behalf and to present other evidence, the right to subpoena witnesses and compel the production of evidence, the right to have the charges against you proved beyond a reasonable doubt, the right to appeal if convicted of these charges after a trial?
Yes, ma'am.
Has anyone forced, threatened, or promised you anything to get you to enter a guilty plea today?
No, ma'am.
Mr. Kimber, how do you plead to the charges of possession of a firearm by a convicted felon and possession of drug-related objects in indictment 22 SC 183005?
Guilty.
And is this guilty plea freely and voluntarily given with full knowledge of the charges against you?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand you may only have a limited right to appeal this guilty plea conviction?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that you only have 4 years from today for a felony charge and 12 months from today for a misdemeanor charge to file a habeas corpus petition challenging the voluntariness of this guilty plea?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, the state is aware of 4 prior felony convictions for Mr. Kimber, the most recent being a 2016 conviction in Fulton County for possession of a firearm. And had this case proceeded to trial, the state would have expected to show that on February 2nd, 2022, I'm sorry, Your Honor, that's when he got bond. On November 4th, 2021, while on detail, South Fulton Narcotics Unit 1 squad were out on patrol, where Investigator Wilkerson observed a male walking back and forth from 4590 Fulton Industrial Boulevard, which is the Shell gas station.
Different gas station.
Same boulevard. The suspicious person, later identified as Mr. Kimber, was observed walking back and forth from several vehicles and in and out of the store. Officer Curtis requested backup, and they continued to observe Mr. Kimber, who then entered a red Chevy bearing the Georgia tag PASZB74. The vehicle then left the parking lot and proceeded northbound on Fulton Industrial. Officers observed the vehicle and, due to a traffic infraction, stopped the vehicle in the intersection of Wendell Drive and Fulton Industrial Boulevard. Once officers approached the vehicle, they sort of kept a distance while approaching, didn't approach immediately. Officers observed the person on the passenger side, who was later identified as Mr. Kimber, making furtive movements as if to conceal something inside of the vehicle. As he approached, the driver, identified as Mr. Tony Manier, neither of them had ID or driver's license on their person. While talking to Mr. Kimber, officers observed a clear plastic bag on the floor in between his legs in the open. And officers could see that it contained several green baggies and a digital scale. Officers took Mr. Kimber out of the vehicle and placed him in cuffs while they executed a search of the vehicle. While they executed the search, they located a Taurus handgun. In the interior pocket was also, of Mr. Kimber's coat, was also some currency and 2 crack pipes. And the handgun was found in the pocket behind the passenger seat.
Behind the passenger seat.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. The crack pipes were found behind the passenger seat.
Where was the gun found?
And the handgun was found in his possession, on his person.
Okay.
And so, as Your Honor is aware, the previous cases, Mr. Kimber incurs these charges, he gets out on bond, and he continues to reoffend. And our recommendation is the 15 to 5 balance on probation, and we ask that you follow the recommendation as described.
All right. Thank you so much. Ms. Tucson, I got criminal history information from you last week when Mr. Kimber entered his pleas to the 219 SC cases. I assume nothing has changed with the criminal history over these 4 or 5 days.
No, Judge, it's inactive probation.
Okay, thank you so much. Ms. Rockwell.
Sorry, Judge, I was on mute. Judge, you have heard for the record that he is 35 years of age. He was born in Birmingham, Alabama. He attended Mays High School, graduated in 2005. He is married, has no children, no stepchildren. He did have his own place, but he has been in custody since November the 5th of 2021. According to the jail, that matches my notes also. We're asking the court to give him credit for that much time. His last work, Judge, before he got arrested was at Hooper, Hooper trailers. They build and repair trailers that follow behind trucks. Judge, wait, I'm about to sneeze. I'm sorry. Okay. He, unfortunately, we couldn't resolve just absolutely everything, but he has, and we'd ask that you accept and sentence all these three cases as negotiated, concurrent. And that's all I have. I did not know he was on inactive probation. My notes said that he was not on probation. He is on inactive probation still, just not reporting.
Ms. Tucson, tell us what you mean by inactive probation. Is that the 2016 case?
Correct. That means he's not on probation. I apologize.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So there's nothing that's going to jump up and bite him of, now there's a warrant to revoke because of these new convictions.
No, Judge.
Okay, great. That's good to clarify. Thank you, Ms. Rockwell. Mr. Kimber, anything you want to add to what Ms. Rockwell said? Anything else you think I need to know about your situation?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, I find there is a factual basis for today's plea as well. We already worked through that for the two 2019 cases, but I find there's a factual basis for the case that flowed from your arrest on November 4th of last year when you were wandering around near the Shell station on Fulton Industrial, got in the red car, you and the other gentleman got stopped and the police found what they found. So I'm going to accept your plea in that case. Do you have any questions about anything we discussed today or the last time we were together last week?
No, sir.
Okay. Then I find your plea is knowing and voluntary. Do you authorize me, Mr. Kimber, to sign your accusation in this case, the case ending in 005? I think we covered it, but just in case we didn't, to sign your two indictments, the 19 SC indictments, sign them electronically since you are in Cobb and I'm here in Fulton.
Yes, sir.
And Ms. Rockwell, I can sign on your behalf.
Yes, Your Honor.
And Ms. Charles, I can sign for you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Great. Okay. Ms. Charles, I don't have, I do. Never mind. You had null prossed some counts with the other indictments. I think this will work out. So you guys hold me to it. Let me see this note. Okay. Ms. Rockwell, just so we're clear, because of boxes we need to check on the final dispositions for Mr. Kimber. This is a negotiated resolution for these three cases. So these are negotiated pleas for the three pleas.
Yes, Judge.
Okay, great. In 19 SC 170950, that's the August 16th, for what it's worth, 2019 Valero gas case. Your sentences to count 1 will be 3 years to serve. Count 2, the state dismissed. Count 3, which was trespass, will be 12 months to serve. That'll run concurrently with count 1. So your total sentence in the case 19 SC 170950 is 3 years to serve. And you will get credit at a minimum for the time you've been in most recently, Mr. Kimber. You weren't in very long on the August 16th arrest, maybe a few days, but Ms. Nelson will look and you may get that additional credit, but you'll certainly get the big block of credit that we've been talking about. Your second case is 19 SC 172617. And in that case, the state dismissed count 1. Count 2, your sentence will be 15 years to serve 5 with the balance on probation. Count 3, the state dismissed. Counts 4 and 5 are misdemeanors. Those will be 12 months to serve. They'll run concurrently with count 2. The next count, you allegedly darting in and out of traffic, is dismissed. And then finally, there's a misdemeanor and obstruction. That'll be 12 months to serve. That'll be concurrent with count 2. So the total sentence in the case ending in 617 is 15 years to serve 5 with a balance on probation. And you'll again get credit for the time you've served. That'll run concurrently with, same time as the case ending in 950. In fact, all 3 of your cases, the sentences are running concurrently, which gets us to the third case, the plea I just took, 22 SC 183005. Your sentence says to count 1 is 5 years to serve. Count 2 is 12 months to serve. That'll run concurrently with count 1. And that case will run concurrently with the other 2. So the net effect of all 3 cases is a sentence of 15 years to serve 5 with a balance on probation. You'll get credit for time served. And Ms. Charles, you had suggested as a condition of probation that Mr. Kimber submit to a drug and alcohol evaluation. I'm all right with that. He's going to be in custody for a little bit. Is that still something that you'd recommend for when he gets out?
Yes, Your Honor. We're not clear whether he's more of a pusher or a user, so we just want to see where he is.
Okay. So Mr. Kimber, when you get out and start your probation, one of the things you'll need to do, and probation will help you with this, is that you'll need to submit to a drug and alcohol abuse evaluation. If there is a determination by that medical professional that you ought to get some treatment, go to classes, get some counseling or something, that will become a condition of your probation. Is there a reason, Mr. Kimber, after you get out that you need to be on Fulton Industrial Boulevard? Do you live off of FIB?
No, sir.
Okay. It will also be a special condition of your probation that you not be on Fulton Industrial Boulevard. Should it get renamed after a civil rights leader, you'll need to stay off that street anyway, whatever its name is. Ms. Rockwell, anything you want to add in connection with this?
No, Judge.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for your work on behalf of Mr. Kimber. It was brought to my attention that you may have been doing a little bit of volunteer work as well. I thank you for doing that.
Yeah,
Mr. Kimber,
I just got upset because I was trying to wrap it all up, Judge. We wasn't in the stars.
That's all right. Trafficking is often an immovable object. Mr. Kimber, that case remains. It's in non-complex. You'll have a court date soon. You'll have a lawyer. If you cannot afford one representing you, there'll be a prosecutor in there and we'll see what happens. But all this other stuff is resolved. And every day you stay in jail, you are earning credit on that sentence. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Tucson, do you need anything or need to share anything with Mr. Kimber?
Mr. Kimber, do you have an address that you'll have to put on file? I'm sure the one we have in the system is outdated. And then depending upon where you live, you'll just need to report to that county's probation office.
Yes, ma'am. It's 414 B Plaza Drive, Monroe, Georgia.
414
B Plaza Drive.
Like the letter B is in boy and then plaza.
Yes, ma'am.
And then drive.
Yes.
And then what's the
Monroe.
what you said Monroe?
Yes, ma'am.
And the zip code?
I think it's 30655.
I could pull it up. And so what county is that? I'm gonna Monroe. Will you be living out in that county?
Yes, that's my father's address.
Okay, then you'll need to report to the DCS office there. That's Walton County. But you will get, while you're in custody, you'll receive reporting instructions as well in the facility where to go.
Mr. Kimber, I didn't realize that your home would be away from Fulton County. Probably a good idea, given how Fulton County has worked out for you. Is there any reason you would need to be back here in Fulton County while you're on probation?
I got brothers and stuff who stay here.
Okay. Do you take care of them, or they're just brothers and so you'd like to see them?
Brothers I'd like to see.
Okay. Any reason they can't come visit you and your dad?
No, ma'am.
Okay, then I'm going to modify what I said your probation is. Instead of staying off Fulton Industrial, I'll make it easier for you. You need to stay out of Fulton County. The airport's not in Fulton County, so if you need to fly somewhere, you can go to Hartsfield. That's in Clayton County. While you are on probation, do not come to Fulton County. Okay?
Yes, sir.
That way you don't have to worry about which street you're on or whatever it's called. That's it. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Lieutenant Dooley, for jumping on this. We dropped the ball and didn't get your team noticed, but I appreciate your flexibility. All right, everyone, you are free to go.
Judge, let me just ask one thing, because that wasn't part of our negotiation. He would be living in Monroe because that's where his dad lives.
You don't need to negotiate it. He doesn't need to be in Fulton County. That's where he's going to start, is in Walton, and he can build from there, but there'll be plenty of good job opportunities, et cetera, in the surrounding counties. But just based on what we've been working through, I'm comfortable with that. I get it. It's not what was negotiated. It's
I understand. I want him to know when he gets out of jail, whenever he gets out of jail, I think he was going to be living with his father, which is where he lives now. Don't know if he owns a house. Don't know if he hits the number and gets a mansion in downtown Atlanta. I just want to make sure that I don't want him to just by default go to his dad's house when he gets out. If his dad lives in Fulton, I want Mr. Kimber, I want you to get in touch with me if that happens, because I don't want you to be, you understand what the judge said? I don't want you to be in violation because your dad moves to Fulton, all right?
Yes, ma'am.
right. Just so we're clear, should your dad move to Fulton County, you can't live with your dad. You need to come up with some other place to live. My hope is your dad loves Monroe, is going to stay in Monroe. And when you get out, you can be with him. Your dad could move to Augusta. He could move to Savannah. That's fine. But if he moves into Fulton County, that's not where you can live, because it is my ruling that while you're on probation, no Fulton County. That leaves you 100 and something other counties that you can enjoy, just not Fulton. Okay? Any questions about that?
No, sir.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, Judge. Thank you. May I be excused? Thank you so much, Mr.